It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Edward Albee's A Delicate Balance, Soul Doctor, and Into the Woods, the play and the movie. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle.
Good evening, Charlie.
Good evening, Leslie. You know, this will be a first.
What?
This is the first time we've ever reviewed a play and a movie based on the play, all in the same show.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We weren't going to start with that.
No, we won't, and we're not going to.
Okay.
We're going to start with A Delicate Balance.
Delicate Balance.
But no, that has been renamed Edward Albee's A Delicate Balance.
He pronounces it Albee, just so you know. He gets very pissed off when people say Albee.
Oh, well, sorry about that, Ed.
It's okay.
Anyway, and this show has, listen to this, Len Close, John Lithgow, Lindsay Duncan, Martha Lipton. Ooh, boy, what a cast. Laurie Kennedy was a small role, but I loved her in Major Barbara 30 years
Laurie
ago.
Kennedy. She's such a sweet woman.
Anyway, and you know what? I still wasn't very impressed with this show.
And Bob Balaban's in it,
Yes. I don't know, really. I think this may have been the first time I saw this show. I may have seen it before, but I don't remember it. This time I remember everything, and I wasn't very impressed. This is supposed to be this great, wonderful classic, and look at this cast.
Okay.
And I was still so underwhelmed.
First time I saw this play was when it first came out. And it came out 69, 71, somewhere, 73, something like that. A lot of things were still going on, and I was still a student, and I thought that this was Albee's UNESCO period. I thought this was his theater of the absurd period. Because the play was a strange piece of, there's a couple, they're very upper class, waspy type people, and they just sit around and they drink and they talk about nothing, and the sister is an alcoholic, and then suddenly at the end of the first act, their best friends appear, and they say, we're coming, we're staying with you, the terror. And curtain, and you go, what terror? Who? What? You know, you sort of wake up and you pay attention, and you don't know what the terror is. And then the second act is about, should we let them stay? They're our friends, we should let them stay. And then they decide to go. And basically that was it. And
Well, no, you left out one critical part.
Which one was?
They put them in their daughter's old bedroom, and their daughter, that's Plimpton's role, shows up after her upteenth divorce, and she wants her bedroom back.
Yes. And I must say that Plimpton, I got a chance to talk to her after the show. Plimpton is remarkable. Her range just continues to grow, considering the role that she played in Pal Joey on stage, considering that she does that crazy lady on that show about Raising Hope.
Oh, well, if you really want to see versatility, catch her on Raising Hope, and then catch her on The Good Wife.
I don't watch that.
She plays a lawyer on The Good Wife.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
You could not have two more different characters, and she handles them both.
Such a wonderful, the kind of character. This is sort of upper middle class. I mean, upper class.
Look, that's her background. She does it well, and I still didn't enjoy the play.
But I was in the middle of saying something. What I was saying was, so the first time I saw it, I didn't get it, and I thought it was just he was doing theater of the absurd. And I went, okay, that's what that is. You either get it or you don't. The second time I saw it was a revival after 9/11. And suddenly I knew what the terror was. I had never known what a terror was. We live in America. We've never had a terror here. And now we have had a terror here. And suddenly this play was brilliant to me. Not just because it was a brilliant production, but it was brilliant. And this one was a fine wine. And I don't mean with an H, I mean fine wine. This was beautifully cast, chilled to just the right moment, decanted gorgeously, and served in a perfect glass. It was a wonderful, wonderful production of this play. You haven't had the luxury of seeing it all these times.
So you're saying that I'm going to have to see it two more times over the next 40 years.
Yes, and hopefully not have to live through another. Maybe, but but I'm trying to explain how I came to enjoy it because
catch me in 40 years. But you have.
It's a date.
You know what? I took a sip of that wine, and. Somehow it tasted a little vinegary to me.
Yeah, I got you. I understand.
I must say that there's this one big scene where John Lithgow is telling his friends, "No, we don't want you to stay, but you must stay. You've earned the right to stay," and it's It sounds like the most ridiculous speech I've
ever
heard. It does,
but it makes sense if you parse it.
Okay.
If you take a 40-year relationship, which is what they have, and if you've had long-term relationships, friendly relationships, I lost a friend a couple of years ago, and I don't mean I lost her like she died. I mean I lost her because I did something, and she went, "That's it. I don't ever want to talk to you again." And I went, "You're kidding me." And she went, "No, I'm not." And that was the end. I mean, I never heard of anything like that. So there again, I have a connection that you obviously don't have to something like that.
That's not as true as you might think.
Well, okay, no, I would hope not. It's a terrible thing because you think this is. I went back and found a card the other day from her, and it said, "I'm so glad we're still friends." It was like 2009, and I'm going like, "Well, we're not anymore." It's very funny, but it's about friendship, and it's about being these upper class people and being too uptight to be able to be real about anything.
Maybe, but maybe that's the thing. It didn't feel real to me. I mean, yes, I could to an extent identify with the daughter wanting her room back, but you want to say it, lady, you've been married, you have children.
She's a spoiled brat, and they know she's a spoiled brat, and they can't do anything about it.
Well, they
might. They made her. They created her, and so in their own image, as it were, and. But I must say, I just have to say that Glenn Close was phenomenal in that role. Now,
she was?
Yeah. I saw Katharine Hepburn in the film, and she was not phenomenal.
I will tell you.
Am I doing something wrong?
I thought I'm just going to adjust your so it doesn't rub against the microphone.
Thank you, Daddy.
I thought Glenn Close was barely there.
Oh.
This is supposed to be. Again, maybe this was what I had read about the play, is that she's supposed to be this very strong, dominating. Well, she wasn't. She fades into the background most of the time.
Oh, no.
Well, on the night I saw it, that
okay, well, see, John Lithgow is the one fading into the background until his moment. He just sits there and drinks and goes, and drinks and goes, It's very hard to play a role like that. But no, I guess you saw it on a different night than I did, and we always.
I think we have other plays to talk about, so we have to.
So obviously we had very strong and very different feelings about Delicate Balance, which I think Albee would be very pleased about. That after all this time, the play could get that kind of reaction.
I guess.
And
I don't think he'd be happy with my reaction.
And how many playbills would you give that?
2.5.
Okay, I'll up yours and say 4. Okay. That's how much I liked it, and it's been a long time since I've given anything a 4. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's a fine production of that particular play, which is a difficult play.
Yes.
No question. Yes. So now we're going to go into this wonderful...
Oh, you're not going to talk about Soul
yes,
Doctor?
of course. I think we switched things, but that's okay.
This is an interesting thing. It's very rare that a Broadway musical gets another chance so quickly after on Broadway.
A year and a half.
There have been shows that have run on Broadway, like Avenue Q and Rent. They started off Broadway, they ran on Broadway, then they went back off Broadway, but after a multi-year run.
And Fela did the same thing, and that little play with a multiple cast did the same thing. This wonderful theater, the New Stages on 50th Street.
Yes, that seems to be where
Broadway
musicals go after they can't sustain a Broadway audience anymore.
Exactly. And you know something, it's very important to have something like that because some shows don't belong on Broadway or they do deserve a second chance and you shouldn't have to wait 20 years to see it again.
Well, in this case, Soul Doctor got its second chance very quickly. And doesn't make the best of it, Leslie.
No.
No, okay.
And it's been rewritten. It was a 3-hour show that went down to 100 minutes. It's got the blessing of Mr. Carlsbach's Rabbi Carlsbach. I just thought of that. Rabbi Carlsbach's daughter. They don't want this play to die, but it really should have a decent burial at this point. It's a big, splashy kind of. You feel good while he's singing. In this case, Josh Nelson is playing the role of Shlomo Carlebach. But this time they simply went, okay, he came from Germany and he went to, and now we get the music, and then it's music, and then so they focused the play better than when we saw it on Broadway, but I didn't care for the focus. It just was an excuse for the thing.
To me, I was thinking, gee, maybe the Broadway production was just so wonderful, or maybe just seen it for the first time, that I overlooked a lot of what I saw, of the flaws that I saw in this production. You know, this is the story of Shlomo Carlebach. Shlomo Carlebach was a rabbi came from Germany during the Holocaust as a boy, grew up in a traditional, very orthodox setting.
Just like the jazz singer, up to a certain point.
Discovered music and used music as a way to bring people to Judaism. He, what the play doesn't tell you is that he wound up with a synagogue, with a shul on the Upper West Side in Manhattan, and he attracted people there, and he kept singing basically till he died about 15
I also online found that there are
ago.
other things it doesn't tell you. I'm not going to go into them. There are things his daughter didn't want to go into, but they're things that were not as very pleasant.
It shows
as the
how
things
he basically deviated from his strict Orthodox bringing. He always remained a religious Jew.
Right.
But he would perform.
But he sang with
in
Nina
mixed
Simone,
company. Yes.
you know.
He sang in nightclubs. He sang in the Village.
And he sang on stage with a woman, which is like something that you didn't do.
Correct.
Correct.
He was, and he would sing in a mixed audience, which a lot of Jewish performers do, but which in his circle
wasn't done.
Wasn't done. He was a very knowledgeable rabbi, very charismatic person, no question. I actually had the pleasure of playing in his band on 2 occasions.
Oh. You probably told me that before, and I probably forgot it, so it's nice to hear it again.
But here, you know what the problem with this production is? It lacks soul.
Oh, God, really?
It does. I didn't get
Jewish soul.
any type of soul. I didn't get the intensity that I got with the Broadway production.
Well, he was too young and too good-looking in this. The other man who played him looked like the real Shlomo. He was a little overweight, a little schlubby-looking. He was,
and you had a strong production, which covered what certain flaws.
It really told the story as it went along.
But I think the main thing was, on the night that I saw it, Neshama Karbach was in the audience. And after, at the end of the show, she came up and did a few encore songs.
Oh, really? Wow.
And there, I got more of what Shlomo Karbach was all about from her performance than I did in this entire production. I did like the original production.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I had a good time at the original one. Yeah.
But this really doesn't capture what it set out to do.
And it also had a squeeze feeling. They tried to do so much. Well, it was done at the Actors Temple, which is a wonderful place. I mean, I'm glad that it's there to do things. But the way they rebuilt it, they had too many people in too small a space, Either they should have cut it back or somehow designed it differently than from the way that it was.
It didn't translate well.
Someone said that they ought to say Kaddish for this show. I know, it's not original. I did not say it, but I heard it, and I thought...
I think... at some day, I hope the show will be revisited. Because the show the show on Broadway had potential, I think. I think the show on Broadway deserved a much longer run than it had. I can't say the same for this.
Do you think somewhere between the very short version and the very long version there's a good show? Or
I think more to the longer version.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe instead of 100 minutes, maybe 2 hours instead of 3, something like that.
I think there's definitely something here, or there was something in the Broadway.
Certainly an interesting story. My God.
The second attempt was not an improvement.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And very quickly, it followed hard upon, as they say. So what are we giving it?
I think 2.5 also.
2.
Yeah.
2-ish, yeah.
Yes.
Not 2-ish. Okay.
Speaking of a musical,
there we are.
Ride, well, Into the Woods, we just can't seem to get enough of it.
No.
I mean, in recent years, there was the incredible production in Central Park. Now we have this slimmed-down production, kind of reminiscent of when they downsized Sweeney Todd.
Very John Doyle-ish with everybody playing instruments.
Yes.
And
everybody. Well, not only everybody playing instruments, but I think the director is in here. The artistic director of the company is here. So
it's a small company, and it's being sponsored by the Roundabout. And they're all very young and very eager, and they all play all the instruments, but they all do come in and the director and everybody.
And I have never seen a better cow. And we'll get into that.
It's so funny, yes.
But there is also, and this opening right in tandem with the movie. So you have the most elaborate production of Into the Woods we've ever seen, and the most bare bones version of Into the Woods. And I had a very good time with both of them.
Because both of them work for different reasons.
Yes.
And this is a very problematic play.
Very much so.
Of Sondheim's plays. The first time I saw it, I did not care for it. I saw it on Broadway. I saw it with Bernadette Peters, who was the big draw. And then I went back and saw it with Vanessa Williams.
Who was also...
For some reason, they invited us back. I don't remember exactly why.
Vanessa Williams did the revival,
didn't
she?
Is that what happened? I see.
Revival.
That's how that happened.
The problem that I have always had with Into the Woods, and
The movie solved it, I thought.
No, the movie did not to me.
Okay.
Is that the first act basically tells a lot of familiar fairy tales, Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk, but they add the characters of the baker and his wife, who are trying to break a curse cast by the witch next door.
Right.
You know,
everybody has one.
Yes. Bernadette Peters in the original, and Meryl Streep in the movie, and Jennifer Mudge, who is fabulous. I don't know who I've never seen her before, but she comes off and she's ugly, and then she's not, and she's gorgeous, and she handles both sides of it beautifully. I was very impressed.
Well, this whole company are people we don't know. They're not in. They're just a small company, and they've managed to do this wonderful thing.
And you know, the first act ends with happily ever after. Then in the second act, the giant's wife comes down looking for revenge, and you know, it to an extent it's consequence of our actions, but my problem was, yes, life has adversary, and you know, you have to work for your happily ever after. But the fact is, everybody had already worked for it in the first act.
Not necessarily. I mean, some of the people got them. I mean, Cinderella wished for hers and got it. You know, the baker's wife was working very hard for hers.
As was the baker.
You know, but in order for them to get theirs, other people had to lose something. So. I mean, Sondheim is a fascinating guy. He's a real
don't forget James Lapine, who wrote the book for this.
Well,
yes. You have to give him a lot.
Absolutely,
share the credit.
but
it was, to me, it was handled very well in the Central Park version, where in the earlier versions there was a narrator. Interestingly, both the movie and this play don't have a character. But in the Central Park, the narrator was a little boy.
Yes, which is lovely.
The second act turns out to be a nightmare that this boy is having. He's reunited. To me, that worked better than any production I've seen before or since.
It gave you a rationale.
It gave a rationale for it.
I understand.
And here the flaws. But here, this production, you have a guy playing the cow, and there's this wonderful scene where Jack's mother is explaining. You know, Jack calls the cow a he, and the mother's saying, "No, there's no such thing as a boy cow. Boy cows don't give milk." And here's this guy, balding and with a beard.
Well, but that's a specific thing because of that particular actor.
But it worked so beautifully.
It did.
This is the first time I've ever seen the cow steal the show.
His name was?
And I've seen some good shows. That is Andy, and this is going to be very hard to pronounce.
Let me try to. I forget it. I don't even want it. Spell it very quickly.
Grotlueschen. Glautelushon.
Just so you know, and he's one of the directors. He's a co-director.
And he plays one of the princes. Everybody, more or less, most of the cast plays multiple roles. You have Emily Young, who plays Red Riding Hood and Rapunzel. It's basically, I think it's only the witch, the baker, and his wife who, and apparently the mysterious man who makes who is also taken out of the movie. And interestingly, generally the narrator and the mysterious man have been played by the same person. But all in all, it's small and it's wonderful.
The thing that got me was it's small, but it took longer than anyone I've ever sat through. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And the movie is only 2 hours and 4 minutes long. So there's that extra.
They don't have an intermission?
They don't need one.
The movie?
The movie doesn't need one. And there are movies that do have intermissions. But I mean, we can sit through a 2-hour movie very nicely.
Yes.
Even without a bathroom break, we can do that, most of us. Now, the movie did the opposite of as you said, of what this play did. The movie, and we'll give playbills to each of them. So what the movie did was it went overboard. And Meryl Streep has always said she would never play a witch. And Meryl Streep was so thrilling as this witch. She was perfect. I can't imagine anybody who could have done a better job. And it's because but in the movie. In the movie. I'm talking about on a big screen kind of way. And she did all her own singing. The only real singer in the movie.
Meryl Streep has done musicals on Broadway.
Yeah, but she's not a singer. She's an actress who sings. Anna Kendrick, who played Cinderella, she's a singer. She has a voice, and she's going to be doing the last 5 years coming up.
And then there's
by
Emily
your
Blunt,
favorite composer,
and Emily Blunt as the baker's wife, was also fabulous. In fact, there's this great scene between her and the other Cinderella, where she's saying, "I need your shoe. Why? To have a baby."
Yes.
And then there's this wonderful scene where Cinderella is with her prince in the carriage, and the baker's wife is showing her the baby. Thank you, thank you. And Cinderella is trying to kind of figure this out. This is something out of her reality, and this is a woman who talks to birds.
Yes.
In the play.
Yes. And the thing is, I was heading somewhere, and I've lost where I was heading. James Corden.
Yes, as the baker.
Who was in that wonderful play where he fell down the stairs. Yes, One Man, Two Governors. And who was also in a wonderful episode of Doctor Who. 2 episodes of Doctor Who.
And we'll be seeing him hosting a late-night talk show shortly.
We will, and that's going to be very interesting. But anyway, so he was charming, just charming as the baker's
as the baker.
Hapless baker,
as the hapless baker.
And then you come into people like Johnny Depp as the wolf. There's a perfect bit of casting, my God, and he plays it to the hilt. That new character that he's playing, in the movies, he looks just like the wolf in that. He's got a mustache and that same devilish look in his eye.
Yes.
So I'll cut to the chase here. I mean, the 2 princes.
You also have Tracy Ullman in the movie.
Yes,
as Jack's mother.
Jack's mother, and you have the 2 handsome princes being played by. Help me here. One is Chris Pine, I think.
Yes, one is Chris Pine,
and the other was.
And.
They're interchangeable, so it kind of doesn't matter. But
Billy Magnuson.
The guy who played Spike in Masha, Spike, and whatever by Chris.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, so I thought that when I walked out of that movie, I thought, they got it right, thank God. And you realize why. The director is Rob Marshall.
Well, he also directed Chicago.
He did.
And even though that movie won an Oscar, I was disappointed with it because they kept cutting it. He basically had lead actresses who couldn't dance, so he had to make the camera dance.
He did a brilliant job. Here he went for reality. He went for realism here.
He went for realism in Into the Woods.
That's right.
In the fairy tale.
But it was a perfect kind of thing to do.
Because he had good, solid actors.
Absolutely.
And he let them perform. And I did like.
And the movie is still around. It's out on DVD, and the play is still running.
Yes.
For a while, anyway.
The flaw is, to my mind, in the second act, which, and when my girls were little, I showed them the original version. It was taped. The Bernadette Peters was videoed, and I showed them the first half. I wouldn't show them the second half. How old were they? They were very little.
Because I told people not to take their children. They were saying, "So this is a good movie to take my kids." So I said, "No, don't take your kids to this movie."
Not small children.
Absolutely.
Older children, maybe 8
12 to 15. I wouldn't go any younger than that.
I might, but.
Unless you give them a good explanation of what it's about.
But when my kids were young, I did not show them the second half.
It's very interesting. We are going through such a time. They had Gallivant on Channel 7, which is a 6-part musical thing. And then you have all of these shows based on fairy tales, or the Grimm series, which is based on the monsters.
Well, and also Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time, right.
And basically they're all doing what Into the Woods first did 30 years ago.
And
so they're catching up.
Yes.
They're catching up with Sondheim.
But isn't it amazing that the audience is there for this? I'm not sure I love it. I'm not sure who the audience is. It's doing better than almost anything else.
I haven't watched Grimm, but I love Once Upon a Time.
Grimm is very different. Once Upon a Time is Grimm is different. Grimm is a dark detective kind of story in which each time you get a monster, and you figure out who the monster is in terms of old fairy tales and whatnot. Right. But
Grimm basically takes these characters, puts them into a new world.
Not Grimm, you mean Sondheim.
Once Upon a Time, and very often they will really play fast and loose with the legends.
Absolutely.
Like they had one where Peter Pan is evil and Captain Hook in this is becoming a good guy.
Right. But my point is only that there's something in the zeitgeist right now that's allowing us. When I was a child, I was a lonely little girl, and I read every single fairy tale book in the library. And I'm not exaggerating, because they came in colors, and there was the violet book and the green book and the chartreuse book, every color, and then more colors.
So that child in the Central Park version could have been you.
Oh, absolutely. Without question. I read them all. And I'm saying, suddenly, here I am an adult, and now all my little fairy tales have come back to me. I think that's quite lovely. I'm very happy about that.
How do you rate?
I would give them an equal rating for the different things that they did. I would give each of them a 4.5 for being totally different from one another. I would give the movie a 4.5 for being a wonderful, wonderful, magical, realistic kind of way to go. And I would give the other one for being the teeny tiny version of it and making it work and having a wonderful cow.
I would give them each 4.
Okay.
Honestly, I think I like the theater version a bit better than I like the movie. And to me, the production that really got the material, got the resolve the second act program was the central part.
Who played the witch in that? I've forgotten.
It was Donna Murphy.
Oh my God! How could I forget Donna Murphy? I adore Donna Murphy.
Who, interestingly, talking about play and movie, in this play, the witch is Rapunzel's, stepmother, and Donna Murphy played that role in Tangled.
Tangled.
So
I got to interview her for that. I had the best time. She's such a lovely woman.
All right, and that is our show for the evening. When you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.
Okay. Rap has actually been a part of the legitimate theater for many years. We just never knew it. Now you take My Fair Lady, for example. That musical was originally intended to be a rap musical. You may not know this, but Rex Harrison was the foremost and top-rated rap artist in England. This is true. It's right up there with the story about the anchorman who got shot down in Iraq. So when they produced My Fair Lady, they were going to have him rap his songs. There was one problem. In America, really rap had not taken on the popularity that it had in England, so the producers felt they had to compromise, and Rex Harrison talked through his songs. But tonight, I would like to give you an idea of how the creators of My Fair Lady originally envisioned the songs. Here we go. Why can't the English teach the children how to speak? This verbal class distinction by now should be antique. If you spoke a should sir instead of how you do, why you might be selling flowers too. Yes, you and you and you, even you might be selling, you might be selling, you might be selling flowers too. An Englishman's way of speaking absolutely classifies him. The moment he talks, he makes some other Englishmen despise him. One common language I'm afraid we'll never get. Now why can't the English? Why can't the English learn to say a good example to people whose English is painful to your ears? The Scotch and Irish speak close to tears, and there even are places where English absolutely, completely disappears. In America, they haven't used it for years. Now why can't the English teach the children how to speak? No witches, no Norwegian, the Greeks have taught them Greek. In France, every religion knows this language from A to Z. The French don't care what they do, actually, as long as they pronounce it properly. Now, Arabians learn Arabian with the speed of summer lightning, and the Hebrews learn it backwards, and that's absolutely frightening. But use proper English, you're regarded as a freak.